what we input to the thinking mind will be what we output. And then the idea of working from the unconscious or approaching the soul around the work is that I dive beneath the what I've already seen, what I've already experienced, and I'm going into the deep, dark waters of what I don't yet know.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Miller. Welcome back to Free Yourself, where we explore what it truly means to flourish through creativity, connection, and conversation. Today's episode is a very special one. I sat down with my friend and collaborator, Kim Gillingham. We talk about creativity, wholeness, and what it means to be an artist and a human being in the age of AI and constant noise and chatter. So listen, if you've ever felt pressure to improve yourself or struggled to integrate the messier parts of who you are, then I think this conversation might be for you. Kim and I, we dive into the power of dream work, the wisdom of the unconscious, and why vulnerability, not perfection, is the key to meaningful expression. We talk about scent, memory, intention, and why now more than ever we need to reconnect with what makes us human. This one's, I think, intimate, I'd say a little raw, and hopefully rich with some insight. So let's get into it. Hoping, first of all, is that this particular podcast, I think, I like this for a lot, but this particular podcast, this isn't just for actors. This isn't for filmmakers, creators. It's and people make perfumers, noses. It's for human beings, right? It doesn't matter lawyers, plumbers.
Yeah, that's it.
It doesn't matter who you are and what you are. And George, my business partner at the production company that he sent me again this Rick Rubin thing, and I know we're all Rick Rubin. Eric's a Rick Rubin fan, the creative act, the legendary music producer, but also author and podcaster. What's he was talking about AI, and that if you had 5 different AIs, eventually they'd all have the same POV. And I feel like this is such an important topic these days, not just because AI is really and is happening, is here, and is an important topic, but just from a humanity standpoint, where are we? Social media, technology, the differences in generations, and I truly am not. I don't even want to disparage any of it. It's here and it's very real. It's very much a part of our lives, right? So how, in fact, do we really turn it in, to make the best of it? And I mean that in an awesome way, in an exciting way, not like a, well, like, oh, bummer. Okay, suck it up, make the best of it, And so I thought Rick Rubin really excited me once again when he said, that AI will never have a point of view. And it's like your work, Kim, and the work that you do is everything about a point of view and everybody's own point of view. It's incredible. I want to know if you're up for jumping in on that.
Great. I mean, given the caveat that I know nothing about AI, yes, let's go. But it's interesting, as you say that, like, one of the things I've long said about the work is that when you work from the thinking mind or the sort of ego, which is not a bad word, like we all need a nice, strong, healthy ego. But when I work from the thinking mind, I'm kind of doomed to regurgitate what I've seen before. So that when you say I'm playing Stanley Kowalski and I say, great, I've seen Stanley Kowalski, I basically will just do an imitation of what I've seen and think that I'm making my own version of it. And that's interesting. I've never connected that with AI, but that idea of that what's been inputted is I guess that's the big question. Again, I know nothing about AI, but is what we input to the thinking mind will be what we output. And then the idea of working from the unconscious or approaching the soul around the work is that I dive beneath what I've already seen, what I've already experienced, and I'm going into the deep, dark waters of what I don't yet know, and sourcing what my work or my human experience from there. So my Stanley Kowalski will be utterly different from any other, and what my soul and self needs to express through that material will contort it, infuse it, shade it, illuminate it in specific ways to my being.
Oh.
I think it's Richard Powers wrote a book way before about AI, and somewhere from that, someone working on a script, this idea that, like, what are we putting into AI, and shouldn't we have every monk chanting into AI and every philosopher speaking into AI and every poet speaking into AI? Imagine if we were uploading it with this content instead of, with our, hey, I got new shoes.
Yeah.
I wonder what would come.
Yeah,
through
that's
there.
interesting. I haven't thought a lot about that, and I'm going to put some thought into that for sure. I mean, I want to jump back to Stanley Kowalski, because AI, right, for me is like, it's here. It's here. It's
Yeah.
not going away, and it's only going to become more and more, and at the speed of light, right? Beyond the speed of light, probably,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And so when I say, okay, I look at the value of AI, and how do I take the human value and work with it
Yeah.
hand in hand to make the best world, to make the best characters, to make the best life, to make the most flourishing life, the flourishing characters, right? Because it's essential to not ignore it. I mean, Sandra Seacat, who's, one of our teachers and mentor and legendary, really talks about the importance of the shadow, which I really want to dive into today, just when you said the dark waters. But so with Stanley Kowalski, I mean, it's not for us to ignore that we've experienced or have an idea of Stanley or Stella, right?
No,
Or Lady Macbeth, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we have that, and then how do we turn it into ours?
Yeah. I always remember Sandra used to say, in her twinkly eye way, she used to say, a good artist works with their intellect. Long pause. A great artist works with their intellect and their heart.
Yeah.
But a master works with the intellect, the heart, and the soul.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I think that's the essence of kind of what we're talking about today. I mean, and hopefully every day, right? I think that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to ignore perfume and fragrance because it's such a part of my life right now. But for me, it's, you can take what you just said and apply it to law, to any of the humanities, to any storytelling, right? So, into our relationships, to being a son, to being a father, to being a husband, how do we take that and, we work with the intellect, you know what I mean? We work with the intellect and the heart, and we work with, it's like this holistic life experience.
Yeah.
Would you do me a favor?
Sure.
I asked if you would be up for reading Rumi's Guest House.
I would love to. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
For anybody who doesn't know, so Rumi is a 13th century Sufi saint, poet. And that poem is dear to us. Sandra introduced us to Rumi. And it really, to me, embodies your work as an acting coach, an acting teacher, a creative guide. Do you agree with that?
Yes. What made you choose the poem?
Well, because I'm wanting to think about whether you're an actor or a director, or what is it? Where are we all at right now that we can connect in a collective conversation about our own human flourishing, right? Our collective flourishing, but our individual flourishing. And I think it starts. Actually, it came out of going back to stuff on Marion Woodman, your other mentor. You're fortunate to have two renowned mentors.
Yeah.
Who's a Canadian Jungian analyst and who passed away, but is a great author. But about Kali and the great mother and the great destroyer, and the value of both sides, that what the evolution of what comes out of it. And I think if we're looking at where we are today and the duress that many of us feel burdened with right now and every day and everything on social media and whatnot. So how do we have a conversation about acting, which, like, I just think is like one of the greatest art forms ever. How do we talk about that in a way that it's available for every person to connect and see the value and how they can use it and work with that?
Yes. So, I mean, the work that we were so lucky to come into when we were young, is we're just lucky that we entered into it as artists and actors, but it is so not just for actors or creatives of any kind. It really is about becoming a flourishing human and becoming who we are, really most fully becoming who we are. And as an actor, of course the task is to then express that. But whether you're a banker or an actor, the experience of having an animated soul, which then animates the world, and you are able to be more present with other people and recognize a daffodil when you pass it on the street. This is not limited just to artists in any means, and available to all. Like, it's just as close as dropping within for just a few moments, or listening to a dream, or having the grace of some kind of curiosity or awakening of any kind.
Yeah.
The
curiosity, I mean, that right there is like, if someone says, well, what do you mean, Kim? I mean, right there is that, just that word right there is like an immediate tool. Like, are you curious? Am I curious?
That's right. I think, to loop back to how you were speaking in the beginning with the AI, and the perfume is a great way to come into the conversation, because for me, my response, my partner is rather obsessed with AI and the curiosity about it. And I find myself kind of tuning out sometimes, to be honest, when he talks about it, which he knows. But he has noticed. But my response to AI has been like, well, then we should just fall in love with humanity, and fall in love with our mortality, and fall in love with everything it means to be, biologically intelligent instead of artificially intelligent. And to that point of, like, I'm sure you could download perfume notes into AI, but I can't imagine you'd ever be able to smell the, you need to be in a biological body to be able to have this incredible thing we have as humans to smell and have it arouse memories and feelings, and that you can't touch that through AI. A little bit, the idea of sort of leaning into what we love more than defending ourselves against what we fear. And I feel like now's the time to fucking fall in love with humanity.
Yeah, I want to get a little dark first. You said the dark waters in the beginning, so I want to get a little dark before we fall in love. And the reason is from a positive psychology standpoint, there's so many people that hear positive psychology. A lot of people are like, well, what is that? But other people are like, think of toxic positivity, right? And, anybody who knows Kim is a ball of positivity and positive energy and love. But your work goes way beyond that, right? And I think positive psychology, when we think about positive psychology itself, really is, focuses a lot on mostly, but a lot on pathology and on, mental illness and whatnot. But positive psychology examines, the processes, the tools that are available to us that allow us to have a flourishing life, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean happy, joy, everything is hunky dory, right? It's a matter of, it's like
Yeah.
the difference between eudaimonic happiness, human flourishing, and hedonic happiness. Of course, hedonic happiness, just the stuff that makes us feel good, and in that, whether it's sensuality or and so again, not disparaging anything, but the concept of eudaimonia, eudaimonic well-being is the things that we do that in life that are virtuous, that give meaning to life. And a lot of that has to do, and I come back to Kali and the dark side, and you talking about diving into the deep waters. And for us, we have our word block inside our boxes, right? That are, free yourself from xenophobia, free yourself from, distraction, from, the list goes on, homophobia, racism, Islamophobia, but also, being a dick, being a Karen, and it's because, life is all of those things. It happens. And it's about kind of, it's Rumi's poem, right? It's actually Rumi's poem. You meet them all at the door. You say, what's going on? And road rage. Okay, bring it on. Here we go. And that's what the work is, the acting work. And again, I really want to dive in with that, Kim, and talk about dream work and have you talk about it. When you and I say the work, Kim, your background is traditionally trained both in the classical work, Duncan Ross, a British, and then of course from Lee Strasberg and method and all of that. So your work goes deep and really has a lot of range for actors, and that's kind of like foundational when you're talking about the thinking actor, the heart, and then the soul. Your work with the dream work and Jungian work and Marion Woodman's work is really about taking the work and really taking it deeper. Can you talk about that?
I want to circle back about the eudaimonic happiness as well, but I'll come back. I guess what I've experienced and seen in the times that we've been in workshop together is inevitable, and is in falling in love with being a human. Like, it really means accepting my humanity. And I love a quote that Marion Woodman says, where she says, it's easier to try to be better than you are than to be who you are. And that is very much, right?
Yeah, no shit.
It kind of like, she got it.
Yeah, wow.
Right? And that idea of stopping trying to improve or be better than I am, and to sit in myself and realize this is who I am with my shadow and my flaws and my pettiness and my hunger and my love, all of those things. And I think that's what I mean when I say fall in love with humanity, is that and we all know that a large part of that is for me to say my favorite line of Shakespeare, but from The Tempest, this thing of darkness, I acknowledge mine. And that for me is every time I open a dream or work with a workshop or take actors through that process, it is the understanding of there's something of me that I have for a million reasons decided to suppress or oppress or project or splinter off. And each creative project or each dream or each encounter with what's coming up from the unconscious, if I choose to turn towards it and say, who is at the door? Who is visiting here? Then I have the chance to retrieve the energy, integrate it, and then I have that energy available again for myself to do whatever it is I've come here to add my grain of consciousness to the library of consciousness, as Andrew said.
Wow.
But the work of it's inevitable and essential when working with material from the unconscious to suddenly be working with, like that's an unflattering vision of myself, or something that I probably wouldn't have led off with this part of myself. And then I'll just throw one more quote into the pile of quotes, which is a wonderful Jungian who wrote so clearly on Jung's work, is Robert Johnson. And he wrote a book on shadow, and he was an older man at the time. And he said, I understand that there's energy in shadow, and I'm an older man and I need energy. So, I have to go into the shadow and do more shadow work and retrieve what I've sort of suppressed back there and bring it forward so that I can have the energy to do what it is I want to do.
Yeah.
Maybe reductive, but maybe there's something to thinking of it as an energy source, an energy supply with great reverence to be worked with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it was Robert Johnson that was in conversation with Marion about Kali, actually.
Yes.
And it might have been Robert Bly, but yeah, I think, when Sandra talked about, the shadow and the importance of having a great relationship with our shadow side, I was hearing that and experiencing that in very early days of sobriety, right? And having to really connect with, the idea of, shit, am I giving all this up? Am I, all that wild fun and having to kind of embrace the notion that there's excitement in a healthy relationship with the shadow and this energy that Robert Johnson was talking about.
And then to tiptoe into a little bit like and then the ongoing work of it, to understand that, like, once I've gotten back on the steady shore, and of course, like, yes, to work with sobriety, and once I've really got my feet under me with the sobriety, which could be years and years and years, and the work then of realizing, wait, have I amputated aspects of myself that might have healthy Dionysian energy that I might be able to reintegrate now that I have such solid shoes beneath me, that we're constantly negotiating and navigating the because of course we have to separate. And then later, maybe we come back and be like, I need that. I need that wild joy. How can I express it in a healthy and healing way?
That is so...
How could I creatively?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, we have to talk about that more and again, because, I think about generations and the importance of connected generations from Gen Z to boomers and on,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes.
And where we can often feel like we've lost our sense of value, or we're trying to be something that we aren't, or we don't value certain people because we don't understand the value of valuing people. And it seems like there are a lot of layers in that, where the more we can understand our shadow and the healthy aspects of our shadow, but all aspects of our shadow, the Kali of it all, right?
Yeah.
Then the more we can connect with people, and that in and of itself is so important for humanity's well-being.
It's very helpful if we see one another and I say, especially you and I have known each other for many years. So, oh, you see my
Mm.
shadow. Oh, I see yours. And I love you anyway. And you love me anyway. And so we have a beginning to be like, well, maybe it's not the most, maybe this is just
Yeah.
part of being human. Like, and so can I set down one layer of my perfectionism in order to just try to connect a little more fully with someone? It's so lonely to be locked in perfectionism, and a little acknowledgement of each other's shadow gives reprieve from
Yeah,
them.
Kim, you made me think about the audience, right? And I'd love for you to maybe talk about, and I don't want you to forget about eudaimonia, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
we can talk about whichever one you want in order. But I'd love for you to talk about Marie von Franz and Sandra talking about the wounded healer and the relationship of how an audience heals when the work is really given over. I'm sure there's a better term that you have for it, but when we're really at our most authentic, I can't stand that word because it doesn't really say what you want to say, but at our most truthful, vulnerable self, how
Yeah.
that is healing for an audience, and that healed audience heads out and they connect with people, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, you just said it so beautifully. I don't know that I don't know that that's really beautifully said. I mean, I guess it's for me the ongoing work in my life and in in artistry of, can I stop performing, and can I show up and be who and how I am as I am? And the truth is, no, I can't. I'm too frightened. However, in my artistry, or if I'm an actor, I have this incredibly sacred uh, container around me where it's charged. It's got a framework around it. And so for this period of time, as I'm doing my work between action and cut, or, as the lights come up at 8 o'clock, I could really work with, what if I tell the truth about my wounds? And what if I own them, claim them, and allow you, I've done the work beneath the script, so I understand what of my wounds are expressed through this material. And I'm I'm in a kind of collaboration with the material. So I'm not projecting onto it. It's allowing me and I'm allowing it.
Yeah.
But my desire is to tell my truth through there. And we all know what it is when we are with someone, or with people, when they tell the truth, the whole energy drops in a different way. And I do think that moves us in the theater, in the movies, wherever, in a room, when you're with someone and that the place drops like that.
Yeah. I wrote it. I
Say
didn't know.
more
I mean,
about what you.
I just, what if I tell the truth of my wounds, right? And you said, a collaboration with the material. It's also a collaboration with the audience, right? There is, and a collaboration with the other actors on stage, or the other actors on camera. It's a collaboration with the crew, even on like a film crew.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm really thinking about that. It's like there's a real collaboration. They're there. Where the DP is. Who's right there, and you know, and yet there is a sense of trust. The container's there. What is the container for? And that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of really is friggin' magical, right?
Oh, it's magical. And just what it is, it's in the chapter that what happens when we turn our attention, we change with unconditional regard and attention towards us. And so like when there is this, it's incredible to be on set and feel the attention on the moment. It is such a heightened state. And, what might come through there if we dare to not perform, but to, reveal ourselves or tell the truth, or even just stand there and say, like, I don't know what to do next. The best case scenario is that you get lost, and that only when we're lost, then the inner self can come and guide you through. But if you never let yourself get lost, why would the inner self bother to come forward and try to take you in a different direction in life or art, right?
Positive psychology. I mean, that's Holly Csikszentmihalyi, who also passed away not too long ago, but who's one of the co-founders of positive psychology, is all about flow. And, flow as an athlete, but flow as an artist. I think of flow of that state, regardless of where we're in. Flow when we're experiencing awe, right? Because we're in flow because we've allowed ourselves to experience awe, or because we are in a state that we've worked hard to get to, where we've stripped away the stuff. And, and I think it's important I'm me, Kim. I mean, I want to jump right to the end result, and I want to have it all, tied in a bow. And of course, that's never happened in my entire life. But that we do the work, and you shed stuff, and guess what? Other stuff comes on.
Yeah.
The great news about that is,
that's right.
that we're different. We're different. We've shed other stuff, right? We've gained other stuff because the universe happens, life happens, politics and technology and the news and all those things happen, and financial insecurity happens, and health issues happen, and all those things happen. We have the tools to remove those things, and then they come back, or I don't say they come back on. Yes, some of them come back on, but new things come on, or they come on in different ways. And that's the complexity. That's the contrast of our emotional landscapes are constantly changing. And do we have the tools as artists and as human beings to turn it into something better?
Yeah. And that something in there too about, can I reckon with it? I'm not trying to fix myself. I'm trying to accept myself, and that I'm very fond of this book that I just ordered called Death, the End of Self-Improvement.
Okay, is that real?
It's real. I don't even know what it's about. I just saw the title.
That is so good. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that. Let's talk about numinous, right? The end of self-improvement, because there's a sense of numinous being this archetypal realm where we have actually transcended, right? And what's your experience with that? Because that's a Jungian. Well, it's not really Jungian. It's from another writer from 1917. I don't have his name around me here, but Rudolf Otto. It's a book. It's a book called the Idea of the Holy, right? And but it was really, Jung really took it and popularized it, the term numinous, right?
Huh.
And so that is interesting to me about the journey. Like, there's the bridge, there's the work that you do so well and take people through, and there's the bridge from that head, heart, soul, self to something other.
Two things at the same time. One, I want to hear more about how he discovered and wanted to say luminous. Will you say
I don't know. I don't know much more about that. I mean, the reason I know what I know is because one of our upcoming fragrances. So we have the Elements collection, Earth, Water, Air, and Fire, and we're introducing next year 2 fragrances by Ralph Schwieger, incredible master perfumer and renowned perfumer Mathilde Bejawi. The 5th and 6th elements, ether and numinous, right? The bridge and the transcendence. But that's why, I certainly know Jung's work with you and with Sandra and Marion and Robert Johnson. But that's kind of where numinous evolved from, that idea of that mysterious, that sacred, that awe-inspiring, something greater, something greater. That's the best that I can do with it. Just something greater. And that's, I love that.
Me too. I can't wait to smell that.
You'll love it. And that numinous is by Mathilde Bejawi. She did the État libre d'orange, like this, Tilda Swinton's perfume, Mathilde. And so, I mean, Tilda Swinton is awe-inspiring, right? So, she's something greater than beyond, right? So, so that idea of, and what I love about it, Kim, is it's just the work, right? It's just like, okay, at the end of the day, it's a perfume, right? It's a fragrance, but it's not just that. It's storytelling. When you're working on a project, and it doesn't matter whether, it's, this unbelievable piece or it's part of a tentpole film, right? At the end of the day, it's the curiosity, it's the excitement of what's more, what's beyond that. If you just approach something as a tentpole, that's all it can ever be, right? And I certainly, I texted you the other day about one of your actors' work who, I've worked with her, and she's just so brilliant. And her work the other day, I was just like, that's as good as it gets. I mean, that's as good as it gets, right?
That's right.
And why? It's because I know she's explored, she's gone to that line, that numinous line, that there's something else. And it just comes right out through the screen. It's unbelievable to me.
I'll come back and, I'm going to ask one more question. What are the fragrances in the...
No. Let's sit where you're so funny. It's... What's interesting is that there's a real sense of actually very earthy ground. I mean, there's coffee in it, for example. So Mathilde took the opposite point of view, right? She didn't land in the obvious. She didn't go out to the ethers.
Yeah.
When she brought in the ethers, she did that at the end, and she brought that in through the smell of her children when they came in after they've been playing. That ozone smell, right? It's going to blow you away. I wore it the other night, and we're super excited. We'll be launching that in the spring. But it's like the thought that came with that. AI doesn't think like that. Right? AI doesn't think about the smell of their children after they've been out in the yard playing. And she was...
Isn't that so beautiful?
Right?
Yeah. I would say completely that you looped it right there through the senses, through the body, with that. For me, the numinous and the I don't want to go all the way to danger, but the trick, maybe wrong word probably, but the of thinking that I have to transcend in order to reach the numinous. And I think it's instead I'm not trying to transcend myself. I'm trying to be myself. I'm trying to come down into my life. I'm trying to, and that actually is where I will find contact with the numinous. And that, again and again, it's not about perfection. It's about humanity. So the smell of the children after play, that's like a carnal expression of pneumosity through humanity. Like
Yeah.
that's incredible. Like
Yeah.
what a beautiful, what a beautiful thing. And like that, we know that, I guess we're always interested in like, we're in this human body and we're sort of having our corporal experience, and then we're sort of crossed with the divine, or we're here and there. I don't know which way it goes. But the sense of those two coming together, that I'm having a divine experience and a human experience at the same time. And for me, when I hit the sweet spot where I'm in contact with both of those, is when that luminosity lights up.
That, first of all, I just am so blown away by how you really related that to acting. I mean, that like connecting that, and I think about it all the time, and yet I just kind of missed that moment right there, right? I mean, I heard it when you said it, but it's like I can't get enough of it. I love that, because I
Yeah.
do feel as though that we keep talking about collectively positive psychology, the work that you do, but everybody it talks about in wellness and well-being, holistic, right? And yet scent, smell constantly gets left out of that, right? It's really kind of,
Yes.
and so even when I talk
Yes.
about fragrance, I almost prefer to talk about scent and smell rather than fragrance, because almost
Yes.
fragrance
Yes.
is like a finished screenplay, right? And
Yeah, that's
or
right.
it's actually almost like the finished performed play, right? And whereas scent and smell is about the power, the value of the word, or the combination of words, or the sentence, or the setting. It's a mixture of all these things,
Yeah.
right? And so, what I would love for you to do is talk, because you are, have been deep, deep, deep in the work of Jerzy Grotowski, and talk about, like, because you were talking about the psycho, the physical engagement, the psychophysical engagement, and the way we kind of clear the blocks, the obstacles that we have, because you're saying that the transcendent moment is the moment where we just recognize ourselves, when we're just at the core of accepting who we are. And that it makes me think a lot about Grotowski's work, via negativa, and just body memory and encompassing it all.
I guess my experience with the Grotowski work is that I came into the Grotowski mostly through the song work that he was doing, and um and I am by no means an expert, but my experience with it is that I have had the experience and witnessed the experience of that transcendent coming from the surrender of those songs moving through artists. And I think that does speak to like part of when we say like, what do we do in order to be in flow, or what do we do? We just like hope to be in touch with the transcendent, and I think there is a training, for lack of a better word, or a conditioning, as Stanislavski said, that I can condition myself to be in that receptive state. Some people might call that meditation, or any kind of a physical practice that is repeatable, that brings me to a state. I'm not trying to fix or control my body, but what's the way that I can become more present in my body? And that for me, that's part of, in our practice, like our training is to bring ourselves into a receptive state. And my understanding of Grotowski with that physical work is that he too, he devoted his life to exploring and opening those channels with incredibly devoted artists in the forest there. But I think it's available, and it necessitates devotion and training, I do think, which is, as an artist, like, to prepare your voice. And I don't mean to perfect your voice, but if you're asking archetypal energy to come through you. Like, do you have the voice that can carry it if it comes through? And is my physical body both strong and flexible enough to allow it to come through? And, do I have the psyche strong enough to allow it to come through? And do I have a practiced way of being present in my body and in a state of surrender at the same time? And those are trainable states.
Such the biggest deal. I mean, look, my hesitancy in me jumping in on this is that I like, for me, I think it's the everything of it all. And yet, like, I'm probably one of the biggest slackers. It's like life gets in the way, time gets in the way, injuries get in the way, illness gets in the way, like all the excuses, and all of that. And, you and I both worked with, again, we've lost some incredible people recently, Kim, amazing Kristen Linkletter in her work, and that the smallest subtle breath, the idea of that, and how transformative that is. And I can jump right to Tom Brady and think, and I just use Tom Brady but
yeah,
you're not just Tom Brady. You don't just get to be Tom Brady. You're Tom Brady because of the work. And when you watched him out there and saw, that like everybody is coming at him, and somehow he's in this state of flow. It's not because he's lucky, right? It's not because he's magical. It's because he's done the work, right? He's done the work, which allows him to be in another state of flow, to allow the magic to come through. And I think you and I both kind of spending so much time with Sandra and method acting, and I'll get into some of my method stories in New York City, but where method acting gets such a bad rap, right? And a lot of that is because it's actually the step that's missed is the work. Actually, it's not just gaining weight or going and becoming a boxer. It's about all of the other work that allows you to be in the state for that moment to happen, right? That those tools, and I'm kind of harping on this, not beating myself up, but because I think that this, coming back to Rick Rubin, is another huge point. Is technology is here, AI is here, but this work, it is one of the things that separates us from the technology, from AI, etc., right? Is doing the work that allows the intuition, the authenticity, the truth, the wholeness to come through.
Yeah. Seems like with AI here, we should even turn more towards it so that we can really meet it most fully, but I concur. It's a privilege to be able to, have the time to work with it. I'm very aware that I'm able to spend the time that I'm spending, that I'm supported in a way that I can do it, but it's time consuming.
So jealous I'm not going to be in Italy with you. I am just like, but next year we'll be spending, I'm hoping next year I'm going to be spending so much time with you and all. But I'm excited. I know that you're doing this great work with really great people that I think are more important than ever right now. Just like that good work.
Yeah, we need each other right now for sure. Yeah, we really do. Yeah, and we need to be with one another and to be able to be like, here's my vulnerability. I'll show you mine. You be with me. Here we go.
Yeah.
Take my hand. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I hope, I would love to do this again with you as we. So, I mean, you and I, we have to, we're supposed to be, and the editors sent us the chapter on the book that Kim and I co-wrote together on acting and well-being. So we have a very short window. We might have to buy a little extra time where we're supposed to respond to their edits.
Yeah. Wait, before we close, tell me about eudaimonia.
Yeah, the eudaimonic well-being. I mean, this concept that of living, the state of living well, a state of living virtuously, and a state of, it's not just about feelings of joy, but about virtue, about purpose, and why I'm just so not the best equipped at but it's why I keep going into the opposites and talking about the contrast, and why I wanted to go to also with Grotowski and to Marion Woodman, and because in what you described so eloquently is that for us to be virtuous, for us to be at our best, to live a life of value, of meaning, of mattering, isn't just about feeling good. It's about when we're under duress, when we've got all these things that life throws at us happening, the choices that we make. And I think that that's, as an artist, when you're working on something, the choices that we make, as a neighbor, those choices that we make that aren't necessarily just good for one person or another, they're good for us. Sometimes they don't feel good for us, but they're good for somebody else. But ultimately, they yield well-being for us. They offer that up, and it's I guess what they say is it's the ultimate goal of human life is eudaimonia rather than the hedonic happiness. And we confuse we confuse the two often.
Yeah, I love that word.
Eudaimonia. Yeah, eudaimonic well-being. I mean, it's funny, Kim. It's the essence of who you are. It's the essence of the work, and it really does. It really is about the contrast, integrating the contrast of our lives, right? Integrating the complexities of our lives. If we can integrate them, and I know I come back to our word block, because somebody might say again, well, I don't really, that candle's kind of negativity in a box, and for us, we offer it up as the absolute opposite. I mean, you can open a box and it's got joy and love and bliss and kindness, and that kind of runs thin, right? And when we're kind of positioned against, free yourself from narcissism, free yourself from low self-esteem, free yourself from body shaming, free yourself from not good enough, and we're not, for it's pick. You don't have to pick anything. Just burn a candle and say, this smells really good. Or you can say, I'm going to give it as a gift because you know what? Every time I see so-and-so, they have bedhead. So I'm going to say, free yourself from bedhead. I'm going to give you this, right? But it's the idea of, it's our choice, and we can be intentional.
Yeah.
And I think that the dream work, which really we should talk about just a little bit more too, because the dream work is incredibly intentional. It's as intentional as you get, because you're writing to your inner self before you go to sleep. That's intentional, right? And then you're intentionally getting up and writing about it. And that intention of, I've asked this, I'm putting it out there, and I'm going to work with what's given back to me, no matter what it is. I'm gonna work with it, and I'm gonna see where I can go. I'm gonna see where it takes me. Please tell me about that.
You said it so beautifully, and it is the conscious contact with the unconscious. So you are consciously and ritualistically ringing a bell and asking for connection, and the way we approach the unconscious is so very important. So the idea of entering into it with respect and intentionality and clarity, the way we word those dream requests is very important. Yeah, the intention is everything, because of course otherwise we're just bubbling along like a cork on the ocean. to like really say, wait, I want to hear, I want to receive, I would like to listen. Even to say, help me remember my dreams. I never remember my dreams.
Yeah.
Help me,
Talk further,
Yeah.
just because it's, your artists go to some very dark places, right? Through the work that you're coaching them on, through the roles that they're playing, and through the dreams that are revealing. And obviously, your interest is in a whole person, is in a whole human being, a whole actor, their wellness, their well-being, their wholeness, their completeness, right? And not the opposite of that.
I think there's, life is in the darkness, and the beauty in the darkness, and what everything we're seeking is probably down there waiting for us. So it's certainly, we need respect and reverence and care, but we are in a culture that overvalues light.
Wow.
I think so. To know that, like, what I'm longing for is probably down there in the darkness, and that with my consciousness, I'm taking the light of consciousness and seeking to descend into that darkness. And in so doing, a little bit of the unconscious comes up to the topside world, and a little bit of my consciousness comes down to the unconscious. Like, it's changing me and I'm changing it. So it's terrifically generative. And of course, we're careful and reverent and respectful, and we keep our wits about us as we're descending.
Sure. I think that's, and I do want you to just talk a little bit more about that, because I think it's incredibly important for actors, for performers to know. I mean, it's like for me, positive psychology, I am not a clinician. I am not here to, I can refer somebody when it comes to the pathology of things and whatnot, but this is about plussing the zero and up, not from negative zero up. Although I have a little bit of an argument with that, is I think that one can not deal with the pathology and deal with the things that are just healthy for human beings, that do have an effect on taking us from a negative state to maybe a less negative state. And that does not make me a clinician. I'm not, that's not what I'm there to do. And I think it's the same with the work. Everybody's not coming in completely free from issues, and yet you're not there solving them, but you're able to work around them.
No, and it's important in our work. It's important to work in the care of good. I highly recommend people are working with an analyst or a therapist or a counselor of some sort, but not necessarily because of the dream work, but although it's important. But we're working in a creative capacity, and it's truthful what you're working with, and you'll hit material that needs, which is wonderful. How great to have the contact with the material that needs care and attention. But not only as an artist, just as a human, to have that support, if available, is incredibly helpful. And for us, we are really constantly framing of this. This is I'm not an analyst. This is a creative lens into the work, and we are creatively expressing and seeking to bring a creative expression to the material that we find from the unconscious. And there is training that we do so that we have our scuba masks and fins on before we jump off the boat and get into the water.
Yeah. So important. And I want to just put that out there as we talked about this, that this is available for more than actors, is for more than directors, for, just the creative in everyone, right? The creative parent that's just trying to get their child to eat their vegetables, right? Or dealing with a boss that is burdensome, right? And so the things really, as we try to reconnect as human beings or connect deeper, if we're, that we have tools available to us that can invite us to do that. And then there are tools that are available for, for other work that might be needed as well. But what we have right now is a chance to talk to each other again, to connect again,
So sweet.
Yeah.
Just to have a chance to slow down and have this conversation is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Kim. I mean, Kim and I are friends since we were 18 years old. 18 years old. Our boys are the same age now, mid-20s, 25, 26. And they've grown up as friends and know each other and connect in Los Angeles together.
Incredible.
And yeah, you inspire me, and I cannot wait to be working with you again.
And you read, and you make so much. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, what a treat. What a treat. I'm so excited to share this with the world.